Hi guys, welcome everyone. My name is Vera and today I'm going to show you how to paint a rainbow, ray in and bow, the Love Gnomes. So this is a watercolor painting. So make sure you have the right materials prepared. However, if you guys don't have watercolor, you're more than welcome to use a really watered down acrylic paint, or you can even attempt doing watercolor pencils if you wish. So totally up to you. Again, I'm going to be showing this in actual watercolor, but if you all you have is, let's say, is acrylic paint, you're more than welcome to join still and do this and use what you have. All right, so let's quickly go through everything that we're going to need for today. First thing you're going to need is your paper. I'm going to be using 9 by 12 inch watercolor paper, and I always suggest if you paint in watercolor, it's best if you use watercolor paper. However, you can substitute it for mixed media paper, or you can just grab any super thick and heavy paper and try that. But watercolor paper, of course, is the best for watercolor. We are also going to need a pencil because we're going to start with a sketch. So make sure you have a regular pencil, and you will definitely need an eraser just in case your lines don't go well the first time, and they probably will not. So it's totally fine to erase them and redo them. So make sure you have an eraser. After that, we're going to need some kind of paint, again, watercolor or other. I'm going to be using this Koi watercolor palette. You're going to need a mixing tray for sure. And this is what mine looks like, but I know it's really hard to see here what's what. So I'm going to be showing you on this wonderful piece of paper that has all my colors. So this is what I'm going to be showing you my colors on. We're just going to use all colors of rainbow, so you're welcome to use any colors. There are no very particular colors that you have to use. As long as you're going with a rainbow pattern, it's all good. This is what matters to us. And we're going to need a couple different brushes. It's always good to have 2 to 3 different brushes. For this particular painting, you don't really need a large brush because there are no large areas that we're going to be covering, but it's always good to have a couple different sizes. So for me, I'm going to be using one small brush for details. So for small one, it's very important that your brush has a nice pointy tip, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a brush with this nice small pointy tip. So always best to grab number 1 or number 0 or number 2, so something really small. And you can grab something medium for larger side and something bigger for even bigger size. For me personally, I don't need that, so I'm just gonna grab medium brush for my second brush. Let's go with, let's say, this one. This one looks good. So you see it's a little bit bigger than my first one, but they're both soft bristle brushes and they have somewhat pointy tip. This one actually has quite pointy tip as well, even though it's not as pointy as my first brush, but it's still pretty pointy overall. And of course, we're gonna need water, and we're going to need a paper towel or reusable fabric cloth, whatever you guys have and whatever you would like to use. You're welcome to grab that. I'm going to be using a piece of paper towel, and that's for us to dab our brush on. All right, I'm going to put my paint aside for now. I don't need it just yet. I'm going to put this aside too, and you guys can refer to the image that you see on the top right of your screen here. I'm going to put this aside too for now. We don't need it just yet. All we're going to need is a piece of paper. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use that actually. I'm not going to rip my paper out. I'm going to adjust my camera quickly to make sure you have better view. All right, I think you can see everything like this. Not bad, right? Alrighty, and what else I needed? Don't think I need anything else. Oh, one more thing that you're gonna need in the end is fine tip Sharpie or black pen, something for the outline for our gnomes. I'm gonna be using this regular fine tip Sharpie that can be purchased in any dollar store. It's not a fancy supply. It's just something I have a lot of, I have them all around my house. I have many because I lose them and I use them and they break and they dry up. So I have like 20 everywhere. All right, so you're gonna need a black pen or fine tip Sharpie as well. All right, and that's pretty much it. So, oh, what I wanted to mention, I remembered. We do have an outline for anyone who is not big on sketching. If that's you, if you just hate sketching, or there's any other reason why you just don't want to do it, that's okay. If you don't want to sketch, don't sketch. We do provide a printable outline that you can just print out and transfer onto your piece of watercolor paper. If you're interested, the link is in the description of this video. So just go into description and you'll see it's a Dropbox link. So just click on it. It will open the picture. Feel free to download it, print it, and transfer it onto your paper if you prefer that. But I promise you they're pretty easy to draw. So I would say give it a try first. And then if you don't like it, you always have this option too. So I'm going to put it aside as well. And we're going to start sketching. So what are we going to start with here is we're going to start by just putting one line in the middle, and that's for us to know where the middle is, so we don't end up having gnomes too much to the right or too much to the left, so they end up actually in the middle. And very, very lightly. I would say everything that has to do with the sketch needs to be done extremely lightly. So again, I'm just using regular HB pencil. You see, I added my line super lightly. It's nice and very light. Great. Now once I have my line, I'm going to move on to my first gnome. And I'm going to start with a nose. Nose is going to be approximately right in the middle of our painting / drawing. So vertically in the middle, I'm going to put a little oval. Great. Now once I have that, I'm going to move on to my head. And first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to decide how wide my head is going to be. I'm just going to put 2 lines towards the sides. It's totally up to you how wide your head is going to be. And now I'm going to add the shape of the head, and it's just going to be quite wavy on each side, and you can make it any shape that you want, but for me it's going to be just waves. So I'm going to go like this. Something like that. But again, you can do your own shape. It's whatever you want it to look like in the end. There's no particular shape that it has to have, so you can't mess it up. Whatever shape you make, it's good. I'm sure there is possibility of a shape of the hat like that. I'm sure hats come in those shapes because they come in all kinds of shapes. So this is what mine looks like. I'm happy with it. And as you noticed, I'm going pretty high up to the top of my paper, but of course make sure you leave a little bit of space. I would even say maybe leave a little bit more than that, because this is very little. But again, just don't go straight to the very top, so you don't want the tip of your head touching the top of your paper. Leave at least a little bit of space there. Alright, and I erase those lines in the middle right away because I don't need them anymore. I already have the upper part. I'm not going to need that middle line again. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the bottom. So I'm going to start by adding the outline to my beard. And my beard, I would say, should take a bit more than half of the space in between. So if this is the half between the nose and the bottom, my beard is going to go a bit lower than that. And I'm going to sketch my beard. Again, you're welcome to give your beard, your middle gnome's beard, any shape that you want it to be. Mine's pretty simple. It's just slightly curved on the outside, and then it has a little element right here on the bottom. Oh guys, while I do this, just wanted to mention, if this is your first time painting with us, welcome. If you don't know how this works, this is a video tutorial release, which means I have recorded this video in advance and now it's being released. So it's not live event, but the good thing about it is that you can pause it at any time and you can give yourself enough time for every particular step. You don't have to go with my speed. You don't have to keep up with me. The way we designed it is that for you to pause it every time when you need a bit more time. So you have the image on your screen, you can take all the time that you need, and then whenever you're ready, when you feel like you finished the step, you just resume the video and you continue painting along with me. And then if something comes up and you can't finish this today or the day that you started, that's okay, because again, it's a video. So just come back to it whenever you have a free moment and you want to continue. So no rush. I know a lot of people like to do it in a couple sittings. Not everyone likes doing it in one sitting. So again, feel free to do that if needed. All right, so I have my beard here. And now I'm going to start adding the body. So I'm going to decide where the bottom would be. I would say somewhere right here. And I'm going to add the sides. They're going to be slightly curved towards the outside as well. So not from the edge of the beard, but a little bit in. And try to do it on the same distance from the middle line. I'm going to add 2 lines, just slightly curved towards the outside. Super, super simple. They're not complicated or fancy in any way. They're just 2 slightly curved simple lines. Then I'm going to add my shoesies, which is going to be just 2 ovals on the bottom here. All right. And I'm going to add hands. So hands are going to start a little bit higher up. They're going to go like this. Then the bottom, then the mid, and then the exact same thing on the other side. And the mid. Great, and now I can erase the middle line fully. And the only other thing that I want to add to my gnome right now, before I get to decorate his clothes, is mustache. So I'm gonna actually bring my mustache a little bit higher here. So this line originally was for the beard, but now I'm gonna add mustache, so I'm gonna erase that line and redo it slightly. I'm gonna make it a little bit, do you see? Like a little hill going over. And I'm gonna bring it here, curve it. And from the middle, I'm gonna add the other side of this. So something like that. And you absolutely can make your mustache any other shape. It doesn't have to be this particular shape. This is just the shape that I did when I was making this painting originally, so I'm gonna stick with my shape. But again, if you have any other shape in mind, go for it. You can experiment. This is why we're doing the sketch with our pencil, so you can experiment with it. You can try a couple different options before you actually move to painting, because once you move to painting, you're not going to be able to change anything. But at this stage, at the pencil stage, you can try things. All right, that's my gnome number 1. There will be a lot of decorations on him, but we're going to do that later. Let's sketch just the basis for the rest of our gnomes first, and then we're going to go back to him and decorate him. So now I'm going to add 2 more lines on the sides for our other 2 gnomes. So I'm going to add this one first, and again I'm going to start with just 1 vertical line, so the gnome doesn't end up being tilted one way or another, or asymmetrical in not nice ways. And I'm going to add a line on to the other side too. Alright, so I have 2 lines approximately on the same distance from my middle gnome, and they're both vertical. So for this one, for both of them, I'm going to start a little lower this time, because again, I'm going to start with noses and I'm going to have the exact same pattern of how I'm going to make them. But, oops. But because they're a little bit smaller, my noses are actually going to be a bit lower than on my middle gnome. So this is my middle gnome. I'm going to put the nose somewhere right here. So again, it's just going to be an oval nose. And then the same thing, I'm going to do the hat. and I'm gonna make a shape. This time I'm gonna do a wavy, 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 and a little swirl towards the right side. So I'm gonna indicate how tall my head is going to be, and it's not gonna be the same height as this one, it's gonna be smaller. So I'm gonna say something like that. So I'm gonna indicate that. And now I'm gonna start making the wavy line on the side. And then I'll bring it to the top, and we'll add a little curve here, and backwards, and then more waves until I get to the bottom. So this is good. I think I may change it up a little bit. All right. Yeah, I like it. It's good. That's my second gnome. I'll make maybe his nose a little bit bigger. That seems like a very tiny nose. All right. Good, 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 good. So now this guy's a little bit different because his beard is more like it has a different design. It has like a beard hairstyle, I guess. So we're gonna start with mustache here, and I'm gonna do a big, beautiful mustache sticking out to the sides. I'm gonna erase everything underneath the mustache. Let's erase this line too, I don't need it. All right, that's great. Now we're gonna do the beard, so I'm just gonna add 2 pieces from the sides to the middle like that. And then I'm gonna add 2 more here, a little heart where they all connect, and a pointy piece, and then 2 pieces like that on the sides. And now we're going to finish our gnome. So again, we're going to decide where the bottom is going to be. This one is a shorty, so he's smaller than the middle one. So I'm going to finish him a little bit earlier. So he's going to finish a little bit higher. So I would say right here. And again, I'm going to do something similar to what we did with the middle one. I'm going to add 2 lines on the sides. So this time they're going to start from somewhere here and go down like this. Then on the bottom, we're going to add our legs. And then we're going to add our hands. So again, very, very similar to how we did our middle one. And then we're going to do the one on the other side. So you can make them pretty much similar in size, like the side gnomes. You can make them pretty much similar or identical in size, or you can make them different. You can intentionally make one smaller, one bigger. On my original, this bottom, the side right one is a little bit smaller than the side left one, but I can't say that it makes a big difference to the painting, whether they are the same size or different sizes. So I would say just aim for the same size, and if they happen to be different sizes, that's okay too. And I'm gonna start with the nose again, approximately on the same level. Again, it could be higher, could be lower. It's not a deal breaker or something we should really watch out for in this painting. So nose, then again the width of the hat, and then the hat, very similar to that, but swirl the other way. Again, they can be identical or they can be completely different, entirely up to you. So I would say I will finish this hat somewhere here. So all right. I think I'm gonna make it a little bit wider here, but this is good. I like the swirl. All right, that's our hat. And we're gonna move on to the lower areas. And again, we're gonna do a mustache. Quite similar to what this gnome has. The only difference that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna curve the mustache a little bit higher up. So you see it has more of a curved tip versus the first one. But again, very minor difference. Can erase the stop now, don't need it. Alright, so this guy, I'm not going to do the beard next, I'm actually going to do the arms next. So I'm going to start them from somewhere around here. So kind of at the edges of the head, but lower, and maybe a little bit more to the side. And I'm going to add a curved line from here in and from here in. And then I'm going to add a second curved line that's going to go a little bit further to the side and further down. Like this. Great. Now I'm going to add a rounded area somewhere there. And I'm going to add the mid. And then you can add the other side of the round. Right, and then in his hands we're going to position an envelope. So straight line, two vertical straight lines, and a bottom line. And you can decorate it however you want, but I'm going to start by putting a heart somewhere here, and then putting lines. And then I'm not going to add dots yet, I'll dot it later. Now I'm going to add the body. So again, I'm going to decide where the very lowest part of this gnome is going to be, where the legs are going to be. So I'll say somewhere right here. And I'm going to add curved lines, just like we did on the other two gnomes, but not from the sides of the hands, but a little bit further in. So from somewhere here, all right, and then legs, of course. And now the end of the beard. So I'm just going to add a little hairy piece right there. And that's pretty much it for the design of our gnomes, for the outline and just, you know, the positioning and shape of our gnomes. So now we're going to decorate them. I'm going to start with the middle one again. And of course, actually, guys, before you decorate them, I would say adjust them. Take a good look at them and see, do you like the shape? Do you like the size of everything? Because once we decorate them, and then if you decide to change something, you're going to be doing double the work because you'll have to erase your decorations too, and then redo them to match a new shape. So I would say take a good look first and see if you're happy with the shape. So for me, I will actually make this hat a little bit wider on the bottom. Those are minor things. I could leave it like that, but now I'm looking at it and I feel like, there are a couple of things that I think I could like more if they were a little different. Make this hat a little bit wider on the bottom too. Great. Yes, I am happier with this. I like it. Alright, so now I'm gonna decorate it. And again, guys, pause the video if you need a bit more time. Make sure you like them before you move to decoration. And decoration is such a fun thing because you can decorate them however you want. So I'm gonna do stripes, horizontal stripes on this gnome, on a hat, and on this pajama or whatever he's wearing. On this two guys, I'm gonna do stripes, but on an angle. And I'm gonna just add hearts, heart-shaped patches, and you know, just heart-shaped design all over wherever I feel like. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I'm going to start with the hat here, and I'm just going to do horizontal stripes, but because head is rounded, they need to be curved. I'm intentionally not going to make them all even. Do you see how they're a bit uneven? I think it adds really cool funkiness to this painting, that they're not all even and they kind of crooked here and there. I like that. I like that messy, intentional messy look. So that's what I'm gonna do. If you prefer everything even, that's okay too. Just do what works for you. This is what works for me. Or you can do polka dots, you can do, you know, just patterns made out of hearts, whatever you want to do here. Any pattern you can think of, do that. But if you decide to do with stripes, lines of any kind, keep in mind that the hat is curved. So it's like rounded like this, so they need to be curved. Every single line you add is going to need to be curved. You cannot have straight lines there. So that's the only thing I want to mention. And the same with the body, because he is, you know, he's not flat. So that's why make sure everything is curved. Great. I'm happy with this. I like it. I'll add heart on a beard. And I'll add a bit of stitching inside. Great. Now I'm gonna go on to this guy here, and I'm gonna do stripes too, but they're gonna be on an angle like this. And again, remember that the hat is curved. So I'll start somewhere right here. And I'll do something similar on the other side, just the opposite direction. And let's add a few more hearts, right? I'm gonna add a bit of heart decorations to this guy's outfit. Just add a couple hearts and then I'll add the stitching around them. But again, it doesn't have to be done at the sketch part. It can always be done at the finishing touches end. So it's up to you whether you want to do it now or later, or you know, just don't do it at all. Like for example, this is what it's gonna look like plain, and it looks great still. So again, wherever you want to take it there. Originally I made little hearts on this guy's hands, but I think I want to do something different this time. Maybe I'll add a very long necklace with a heart shape. It's gonna be like a very, very, very long necklace. Yeah. I like it. I'll keep it. Okay. Maybe I'll add pockets to this guy. So basically you're just designing their outfits however you want them to be designed. Yeah, and I'll have a heart sticking out of the pocket. Yeah, something different, right? Okay, and that's pretty much it for our sketch. We're done with our sketch. So again, guys, if you need to pause this video, please do that. Give yourself enough time. And only when you're ready and happy with it, then we're going to move to our painting part. And usually if you have painted it with us before or with me specifically, what I like to do is I like to lighten up my sketch before I move to next step. However, for this particular painting, I'm not going to do that. And the reason why is because, as you can see, it's going to have a black pen or fine tip Sharpie outline anyway, so there's no point for me to lighten up my pencil. A, I want contrast on the outline, so if I see pencil, great. B, I'm actually going to cover it with a pen, so I will not likely see it. So this is why I'm not going to lighten up my outline. And I am personally done with my sketch, so I'm going to put aside my pencil and my eraser, and I'm going to move on to my paints here. Yeah, the fun part. The fun part is coming. All right, and as I mentioned earlier, we're gonna use pretty much all the colors of the rainbow. So let's talk about that. So yellow, orange, red. In my case, I'm gonna do pink, then I'm gonna do purple, then blue, and green. So I'm only gonna use two colors here, and two colors here, plus of course black that we're gonna use for our everything that's supposed to be gray. Now you get to choose what shades of red and yellow you're going to use. Any shade will do. Now if you wanted to go, if you want to make even fancier and even more complicated, what you could do, you could use more than two colors. You can use the color that will tie your painting together. So for example, for me here, I have yellow and red, but my red is more like on the orangey side. And when they mix here, they kind of create orange, so it looks like I have three shades, even though I have just two. But what you could do, you could add another shade of red that's more closer to pink, so like maybe a raspberry kind of red or like a magenta-ish kind of red, so it ties this two. So instead of using two colors, you can just add a third one every now and then. Now here, you're going to be doing the same thing. You can start with, here you can actually use even four colors instead of two. You can use your actual pink and purple, but you can also use the magenta that you used here. And you can use a bit of maybe ultramarine or some warmer blue that you're going to use here. And then here you use that warm blue that you used here, plus the two colors, plus the teal and the green. So you can do it that way too. It's going to be more complicated, but it's gonna look awesome. So again, just giving you guys option, and I want to give you heads up on where you can take this. And every color that we're going to be adding on our gnomes, we will also add on our background after. So the background is going to be done very last. Yeah, but every color that we're going to be adding on our gnomes, we're going to be adding on a background as well. First thing that I actually want to do is I want to start with my beard. So I'm just going to grab my small brush and I'm going to use a little bit of black. And I'm gonna grab it super watered down. So if you guys haven't used, let's say if maybe your first time, or this is your first time using watercolor, or if maybe you don't even have watercolor, all you have is acrylic, but you like the image and you thought you're gonna give it a shot, you're welcome to use them. Just make sure the consistency of your paint, I want to talk about that for a second. It needs to be like a dirty water. This is what you need. You need it to be a dirty water consistency. You don't want it to be like an acrylic consistency where you're using a lot of pigment and it's kind of almost like a pasty or like sour creamy consistency or yogurt consistency. You don't want that. You don't want those sauce consistencies. You don't want yogurt, ketchup, mayo, mustard consistency. When it comes to watercolor, that's what you want for acrylic. For watercolor, you want it to be a milk consistency. It needs to be literally water with a smidge of pigment, dirty water. That's the best I can describe it. Or like milk consistency, or tea consistency, or coffee consistency. And the darkness will vary depending on how much pigment you put into it. So if you guys using acrylic, again, you're gonna need to water it down to the same consistency. So regardless of what paint you use, you're gonna need to water it down to this consistency. Alrighty, I'm gonna put this aside for now because I don't need it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the super light gray that I just made. We're gonna try it and we're gonna adjust it if needed. And you can start with any gnome. Because I am right-handed, I'm gonna start with the left one and work my way to the right, because if I start with the right one and go to the left, there's a very high possibility I'll smudge it with my hand as I do this. So that's why I'm gonna start at on my left and work my way to my right. So I'm gonna start adding flicks from the top down using just the very tip of my brush, and then from the bottom up. You see, from the top down, from the bottom. Make sure your gray is actually light. And then I'll do the same thing right here. So the goal is to have it a bit more solid where you start on the edges. So top and bottom you want to have more solid. And the middle you want nice and flicky. Alright, that's that. And moustache. Nice and light. If you don't make it nice and light, your gnomes are gonna have dark beards. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a dark beard too. Dark beard mustache, they're just gonna look like they have darker hair. Their hair is not white, and that's okay. But yeah, if you want white hair look, you need to go pretty light here. And once I have one gnome, I'm gonna move to another one, and I will do something very similar. So again, I'm gonna start with a beard, and I'm just gonna flick some lines from the top down and from the bottom up. Color in this upper part, you see, pretty solid. So how you do that is you can actually push a little bit more where you start. So if I start right here, I'm gonna push a little bit more there. And then as you go down, you slowly lift your brush. So basically, you apply more pressure where you start, and then you lift your brush as you go further down, and it creates more of a fine line. You're always gonna have thicker line where you push harder, and thinner line where you barely push. So it's just you create different lines based on the amount of pressure that you apply. Alright, second Nomi. And then we're gonna do his mustache. And then last Nomi. Alright, and another thing I'm gonna do in gray here is I'm gonna do this envelope. So I'm just gonna add a bit of an outline to the envelope in a gray. So now that I have my first layer of mustache, I'm gonna add second layer. So I'm gonna make gray that's just slightly darker. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more pigment. It's not dark, It's still like a medium light, I would say, overall, but it's a bit darker, and because our lines are super small, they're actually going to look darker than what it is. And I'm not going to add it everywhere. I'm going to be a bit more selective. So I'm going to start with a mustache here. And just add a couple of flicks. Do you see, to add a bit of an accent there? Darken up a couple areas. And then maybe I'll add a bit right here to separate my top piece from the bottom pieces. All right, I like it. And then I'm going to move on to this guy, and again I'm going to start with a mustache, and I'm just going to add a little bit there too. And then maybe I'm going to add a bit on the outline here. Alright, and my last one, again, starting with mustache, we'll just add a little bit there. I don't even know if I want to add it on a beard, maybe a little. Alright, those are our gnome beards. Now I'm gonna actually do my noses real quick too, because this is just a small area and I'm not gonna go back to it. So for the nose, you can grab whatever out of your palette. If you have an elaborate palette, if you have a color that you feel is best for your skin tone, and again, skin tones come in such a variety of colors, so just grab whichever color you want to have for your skin tone. I'm gonna mix a very, almost like a peachy, pinky, quite fair color, and I'm just gonna grab a smidge of pink and a smidge of orange, and I'll mix them up, and that's gonna be my skin tone color. And I'm gonna use it very, very light, so I'm gonna grab a bit of this, bit of this, orange and pink, mix them up, and I'm gonna use that extremely lightly. So do you see? It's like a tinted water. Oh, beautiful. I think I could go a smidge darker than that, but this is so good. And I'm just going to add it closer to the outline, reserving the very middle of a nose uncolored, because I'm reserving that white spot for glare. Alright, so that's my noses. And now I'm going to move on to my gnomes, and I'm going to start with the guy on the left, and I'm going to put my colors on my palette. So the two colors that I'm going to be using, yellow and a reddish orange, I'm going to put them on my palette. So this one is my reddish orange that I'm going to be using, and I'm using my I got some dark color accidentally in it, so I'm gonna remove this one because I don't want a dirty and contaminated color. That doesn't look like fun. And I'm gonna clean up my color, and I'm gonna do it again. So I'm gonna grab my color, I'll put it right here. That's my orangey red that I'm gonna be using. And the second color that I'm going to be using is going to be yellow. So you can do absolutely any shade of yellow. I'm going to go with yellow that's, I would say, slightly on the warmer side. It's not the warmest yellow. It's not orange, but it's not the lightest yellow either. It's not like a lemon yellow. It doesn't have almost like a green undertone. It's just a nice warmish yellow. But any yellow will do. There is no particular yellow that you have to use, whichever. And what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to start with, and you can use, by the way, any brush, whichever you find most comfortable. I would say small one probably is your best choice here. However, if your medium one is like mine and it has a pointy tip, you're more than welcome to use that too. So whatever is comfortable. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in the entire thing, quite transparent. So do you see I'm using quite a bit of water, and I'm coloring it in very transparent. And then once I have that, I'm going to grab more saturated pigment and I'm going to add it closer to the edges. So it looks lighter in the middle and then it looks more yellow and brighter and more vibrant closer to the edges. And then if you need to spread it with your brush, you can. For me personally, I love that messy look, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to let it do its thing. And then I'm going to wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and with a clean, almost dry brush, I'm going to go in the middle and I'm going to pick up a bit of that pigmented water. And what do you see what it does? It lightens it up. It almost acts like an eraser in a way. All right, so I'm going to let that dry up for a second. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go on to my feet and hands. And I'm just going to color them in like this. Pretty good, right? And then right away to the same color, because I'm pretty much done with it. I'm going to take a little bit of my red, add it in. You see it creates orange-ish color. And I'm going to go right close to the edge here. I'll do two things at a time. I'll start, let's say, with legs. And then before it all dries, I'm going to wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and with a clean, slightly wet brush, I'm going to smudge them a little bit. So there's a slightly better blending. Do you see now it's orangey edge and yellower middle? Then I'm going to grab a touch of that and I'm going to go on my mitts here. I'm just going to add a bit on the outer edge. And if it naturally blends, great. You don't need to do anything. If it doesn't, you can wash off your brush and manually blend it. In my case, it blended quite naturally, so I'm not even going to touch it. I still need to give my head a little bit longer to dry up before I can move on it. So as that's drying, I'm going to go on to my body and I'm going to grab my orangey red and I'm going to start by taking very saturated, but still, do you see it's still very watery even though it's very saturated. And I'm going to go on to the body first and I'm going to go right at the edge here. All right, let's extend it here. And this you have to do pretty quick because you have to do all of this before it dries. So do you see I added the dark area? Now I'm going to grab some of it, water it down, and I'm going to grab it as a lighter color. Or you can just use straight water if you want. And the rest I'm going to color in with either lighter color or literally just straight water. And you spread all that pigment while it's still wet. And do you see what you end up with? You end up with edge that's darker and the middle that's lighter. Now there is optionally another way to do it. You can do it the opposite way. you can actually start with a lighter color. Let me show you on the hands. So you can start with a lighter color and color in the entire area that you need to color with a lighter color. So for example, hand. And then grab the super saturated color and add it where it needs to go. And you will end up with the same effect. So because the area is so small, it naturally just blended exactly how it should for me. But again, if you need to, you can wash off your brush and just manually blend it. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other hand. I'm going to start with a lighter color. I will color in the entire hand with a lighter color, and then I'm going to grab the super saturated color. I'm going to add it on the edge. And again, if it naturally blends, awesome. If it doesn't, wash off your brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and with a clean wet brush, go right over the edge where your two colors connect. And you see, it adds nice blending. And now my head is dry. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to mix a bit more orange again. So do you remember how we mixed our yellow with a tiny smidge of red and created that nice orangey-ish color? And I'm gonna go right a little bit on the edge of my hat here, everywhere. I'm just gonna add a bit of that on both edges. And you can blend it if you want to, or you can keep it. I'm gonna blend it personally, so I'm gonna wash off my brush right away, dab it off on a paper towel so it doesn't have too much water, and then I'm just gonna go right over with this inner edge of that. And you see, I'm not doing a perfect blending. I'm keeping it quite streaky in a way because I like it. Again, I'm going for that intentionally messy look here. And after that, while that's drying again, I'm gonna grab a super saturated reddish orange and I'm gonna go on my heart right here. I'll color it in. And again, I'm just using my I just use my medium brush, but only because it has a really nice pointy tip. Small brush is the easiest for this, guys. So for the upper part now, I'm gonna grab small brush because there are some really small areas here that I don't think I will be able to get even with my really good medium brush. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna grab this red, but not super saturated, so 50-50 maybe. And I'm gonna start adding couple brush strokes from the outer edge in, like this, all the way down. And then you can do, once you did one edge, you can move on to the second edge and you can do the same thing on a second edge. So on the opposite side basically. And then you're gonna water down this red, and with super watered down version you can go inside here and add a couple more brush strokes. You can color those stripes fully or you can leave some area uncovered. That's entirely up to you. But do you see the middle looks lighter because we just use much lighter pigment. And if you want to go even further, you can grab the darkest, the most saturated version of it. You see, I'm using super saturated. And go again, but really close to the edge to darken up just that very edge of it. And you don't even have to do that on both sides. You can just choose one side. All right. Ta-da! The Snow Me is done. And now I'm going to move on to my middle one. And it's similar. It's pretty much the same thing that we're doing. We're just using different colors. So for my next one, you can keep those if you still have more space on your palette. For me, I do still have a bit of space. So let's see if I can get away with having all my colors in here. I'll get rid of this one. This one I don't need. You go away. Alrighty. So the two colors that I'm going to be using now is going to be pink and purple. So I'm just going to choose my favorite pink, which I think I'm going to go with this one. Let's put it on my palette. Oh yeah, I like that pink. It's a nice shade of pink. So because pink and purple are compatible, I'm actually going to start with a light wash of pink over the entire thing. Because pink is a lighter color and it's purple consists of pink. So it's going to be really nice and it's going to be a nice base for everything. So I'm just going to grab my pink and I'm going to color in my nose. So very similar to what I did with yellow, because again, yellow is one of the components for orange. I wouldn't be able to do that with red because yellow does not consist red and the base color has to be a part of every color that you're going to lay over it. But because pink is a part of purple, this works out well. And I'm going to do that for this part too. And now I'm going to grab slightly darker pink. And I'm going to do very similar to what we did there. I'm going to go right to the edge here. And I'm going to add slightly darker pink. And do you see how much water I'm using still? Lots and lots and lots of water. Plenty of water. And then if it naturally blends, great. You don't need to do anything. If it doesn't, you're going to wash off your brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and with a clean wet brush with some water in it, you're going to go right over this middle edge and smudge it. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom too. And guys, remember to pause the video as needed. Don't rush through it. Again, we all work at our own comfortable pace. If this is too fast for you, pause the video. Make sure you go at the pace you're comfortable with. All right, I'm gonna let it dry up for a little bit, and as that's drying, I can add this little heart here. You can continue working with the same brush, or you can switch to a smaller brush. So I'm gonna start by coloring it in. I would say with about like a medium light version of the color. Let's do the mids too. All right, and now I'm gonna grab my saturated version of this color. I'm gonna add it on the edge here. Then I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and I'll blend it in. And I'll do the same on the mids. And just do a little bit like this. Then wash off my brush, dab it on a paper towel, blend it in. Awesome! Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then after that, I'm going to move on to my purple. So I'm gonna use the spot for the purple, even though it has some pink on it. They're compatible, so it's fine. All right, and with this purple, I'm gonna start coloring in the sections right here. Little legs. And then I'm gonna start adding the stripes. So I'm just gonna color in those stripes. All right, and once I have that, I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and I'm gonna try to erase this middle a little bit. Do you remember I showed you how you wash off your brush, you dab it on a paper towel, and then you kind of clean up that. So do you see? I wash off my brush, I dab it on a paper towel, kind of remove a bit of paint from there. And this only works while your paint is still wet. Once it dries, this trick doesn't work. So do you see it lightened up this area and made it again this intentional messy, which what I'm going for. Now, if this didn't work, what you could do the opposite. You can actually let it dry and then grab a bit more purple and darken up the edges. It will give you the same effect. It's just going to be a little bit darker overall. Then I'm going to go do my stripes on my bottom part here. And then I'm going to lighten up the middle again, just a touch. Great. And I'm going to grab a bit more purple. Just going to add another flick onto my hands and my feet. So they're not one tone. And then I'll blend it. Uh-oh, got into my blue. It's okay. Blue is also compatible, so we're all good. All right, then we have only last color left, which I'm gonna use my light blue, which is almost like a teal color, and I'm gonna use my light green. So I'm gonna use this one, and I'm gonna use this one. But again, any light green and any light blue will work really well. So they don't have to be those particular colors. I'm gonna put them on my palette. That's my light green. And here is my light blue. All right, and I'm gonna start again, taking my water down, just a smidge. Do you see quite watered down? Light green, and I'm gonna color in this hat. Pretty much the same that I did with all my other gnomes. And then once I have that, I'm going to take a very saturated version, the same color. So just take more pigment, still watery, but very pigmented. I'm going to go right on the edge here. I'm going to go add a bit on each edge. And I'm going to wash off my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, and with a clean wet brush, I'm going to go ahead and smudge it towards my middle. Ta-da! Did you see again, it has this nice shape. Great, and now with a light green, so the lightest version of it, I'm gonna color in the mitts as well, and the feet. And then you can take more saturated version of it. And you can add a bit of it closer to the outline. And again, if it blends naturally, awesome. If it doesn't, you can help it out by washing your brush and manually blending it out a little bit. And now as that's drying, I'll do this little heart green too, by the way. Why not, right? And as that's drying, let's move on to our blue. And I'm gonna go back to my medium brush and I'm gonna grab not the most saturated. Oh, sorry guys. Not the most saturated, but kind of medium saturated version of it. And I'm gonna color in the entire outfit. And then we can darken it up in certain areas. So I'm gonna take the same color, super saturated next. And I'm gonna do this. Add it here, and here. And then I'm gonna wash off my brush, dab it on a paper towel, and while it's still wet, I'm gonna smudge it towards the lighter areas. All right, and now I'm gonna move on to my upper part. So I'm gonna do very similar to what we did there. I'm gonna start with like a medium saturated version, and I'm gonna flick it from the side in. And then I'm gonna do the same thing from the opposite side. All right, now with a super light version of this color, oops, I'm gonna take some of that and color it in. And then if you want to, you can darken up the edges by going with a super saturated version, just adding a bit right at the edge. And then after that, guys, I'm gonna move on to my medium brush. Medium brush, and I'm gonna grab a bit of every single color and I'm gonna add it on my background. So super nice and watery, every single color, starting at the edge and going into the distance. So that's my blue, that's my green here, You can splatter a bit too, so the most important thing about it is make it very watered down. So it needs to be nice and liquid and quite quite transparent too. You don't want it to be too saturated. You don't want it to be too dark. Saturated is good, just not too dark. Dark is not something you want to do here. Sometimes I would even add a bit straight water, so I would add a bit of pigment, and then I will just add straight water to it. I'll add some purple now. Splatter a little. Oh yeah. Fun, fun, fun. And let's do some yellow and some red on the sky here. So you see some yellow, and sometimes I just add water in it to spread it. And I'll do some red. Let's splatter a little too. Oh yeah. And the last thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a bit of watered down black and I'm gonna add it underneath my gnome feet. Alright, and the painting part is done. Now we can put aside our paint and we can move on to our fine tip Sharpie or a pen. However, for that you guys need to make sure this is actually dry enough for you to continue. So what you could do, you could just take a break and wait until it dries up, or you could start with areas that are drier. So for example, the middle parts are much drier, so you can start there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to suck in a bit of that water with my paper towel to help it dry up a little bit faster. You don't have to do this at all because, you know, you're not recording the video. So you're technically not on a time limit. And it's better result if you don't. So I would say just let it dry. But of course, there are always tricks to make everything speed up, right? So this speeds up drying a lot. So I sucked in some moisture, so now it's pretty dry and I can move on to my outlining. So I'm gonna grab again a fine tip Sharpie and I'm just gonna start adding outlines wherever I feel like it. Right, actually I have to let it dry fully because there are certain areas that are still wet and it's not going over it. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna pause this video and I'm gonna let it dry up. And when it's a little drier, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you the outlines. All right, it's dry. So I am going to continue just adding the outlines pretty much everywhere. And sometimes I will do singular line and sometimes I like using a multiple lines. A bit of stitching. So when I originally made this this painting, as you can see guys, I didn't outline the lines and I'm not going to be outlining them now either. But if you want to, you absolutely can. I'm just going to add a couple lines, you know, following the shape of my hat and the body. Those are more like a space fillers. Not crazy important, but I like them. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna add a couple of wigglies on the bottom. Again, I'm going for the messy, intentionally messy look. I personally love. You don't have to do all of that if you don't love the look. All right. Sorry guys, my video actually kicked out. So, ta-da! We are done. So after that, the only thing that's left for you is signing it. So make sure you sign it anywhere you want. And after that, if you would like to share it with us, we would love to see how they turn out. We always love seeing your beautiful artwork, so feel free to share it with us. There is a link in the description of this video. It's a Facebook group. Feel free to take a photo and post it there. We would love to see how it turned out. We have a specific Facebook group dedicated to people who are exploring the watercolor. So, and if you haven't liked it, subscribe to our channel, please do that. And if you guys had fun and you wanna say thank you by tipping me, you can do that as well. You don't have to. I'm happy to do it, but tips are always welcome and appreciated. And there is a PayPal link in the description of this video as well that you can use for that. And that's it. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see some of your beautiful artworks. Bye everyone.